take a ride on board the flying magic monkey machine.
Beautiful people listening to this podcast. This is podcast number 3 here of the Rob Chapman Lo-Fi Podcasts. Please let me introduce you to the incredible, very talented, and quite funny Tim Fagan. This is Tim Fagan.
Oh, wow. Rob, it's so great to be here. 3 is my favorite number. And on my side of the globe right now, it's morning time. So I'm kicking off a beautiful day with my beautiful new friend, Mr. Rob Chapman.
Thanks, man. Well, it's morning for you, but, take solace in the fact that I just had a nap and I've got a coffee.
Yeah.
And by some absolute random fluke, I didn't set an alarm and managed to wake up half an hour ago, still in time for everything that we're doing.
As nature intended, indeed. How do you do with the afternoon coffee? Do you have like a cutoff time? Because as I have matured, I've noticed that there's a certain kind of point of no return where if I do caffeine, I just announce to everyone, this is a bad idea. I'm having caffeine after 2.
I kind of feel like, it's like a circle. So if you start at the top, you have a little bit of caffeine, it gives you energy and then more energy. And then suddenly you get to this part that's like hollow, man, like, I can't do anything at all. But if you keep going, you just come full back circle around to that pure black caffeinated joy. And the sweet dark mother takes care of you in all her special ways.
Lures you back in. Yeah, okay. And then once it hits your veins, everything's okay. Okay, good. Yeah, because there are times where...
To be honest, Tim, I have 1 in the morning. I drink about half of it. It goes cold. I microwave it about an hour later. It's awful habit. And then I'll have another coffee in the afternoon. If I have a nap, which is quite normal here in Malta, I'll have a nap around 1, wake up, maybe just an hour, and then I have a coffee when I wake up. If I've got work to do in the evening, maybe I'll have a very small Americano, just a bit of cinnamon, some water, that kind of thing. I love coffee.
I can tell. And I was late to the party. Like I didn't drink coffee at all. Like, I don't know, till actually there was a friend of mine who said like, you know what, once you start to get into recording, you're going to drink coffee. And he said that like years prior to me ever having any coffee. And he was completely right. Like the long nights or the studio sessions. And then I discovered espresso, and it was something now that it's got to be in the ritual. It's got to be laid out properly, and it's respected, and it's also, relied upon. It's great.
Ritual is definitely a part of it. It really is. I've sort of come to realize recently how much of my life revolves around the joy of some kind of ritual. Whether it's just stringing, a guitar, or oiling the fretboard. I always sit in a certain way, and I, hoover the carpet in that area, sit on the floor. I always sit on the floor and do it. I don't know why. I like to sit on the floor and string guitars and oil them. And I often, do certain things when I'm having my coffee, and it's become part of a ritual about looking after myself. I think that's what if I really think about it, that's what it is.
Yeah, no, I like that. And I've just sort of leaned into my quirks and habits that become rituals, that become things that sort of anchor me and set me up for like whatever sort of blank canvas moment of like, okay, so we've set up shop, we've had the caffeine, some exercise, whatever it is. And then it's like, and what do we got? And then it's sort of like waiting for the clouds to come through and sort of see what the shape of things are creatively. And the same is true when I sit down to play and sort of improvise. I've been doing a thing more and more recently where I will just, I've got a microphone going into the looper. So I'll start with some riff, whatever it might be. It might start with chords, or it might start entirely just with like a percussive thing or a couple notes. And then I'll sing something into the mic, and then I will try to learn that on guitar, and sort of see what that does to just my brain, to because usually the phrasing is a little bit different or a lot different than I would do if I was just going straight into muscle memory with my fingers. But I'll more or less try to set a timer, and I'll just do about 3 of those, and the whole session will be 20 to 30 minutes. And if I do that on a consistent basis, it's just great to see how my brain gets ready for that. It's almost like it's like waiting for like, are we going to do the thing? And after I do my other rituals, then it'll sort of be this like kind of open play section in my brain where I don't know what's going to happen, but the fact that it is going to happen gets me kind of leaning into something sort of exciting, you know?
Yeah, that's interesting. I've taught when I was teaching guitar, I used to teach that a lot. I would ask the students to, go and effectively go and study black soul singers from the 50s and 60s and listen to the melodies and the note choices and try and transcribe them, and you'll have a hard time transcribing any singer, even Axl Rose, because singers do weird things, really weird things, like they'll repeat the same note 4 or 5 times. Guitar players never do that shit.
Right. Melodies, well, because syllables have, like, words have syllables, and syllables, sometimes you'll have the same note, but you'll have to break it up across syllables. It's just among the many reasons why a melody will have like several notes in a row. And sometimes guitar players, especially as they're learning a scale or some kind of like area of their vocabulary, we all tend to sometimes fall into the trap of like, well, I played that note, what next? And you sort of like move on, like either up or down from where you were, versus just hovering on a note can build so much, intrigue. Yeah.
I spent a lot of time trying to work out Aretha Franklin's lyrics and melodies on a guitar. And before I understood any of the theory and scale shapes, try to work out how it would fit into the scale. And of course, it done. So, yeah. And then you just kind of go, but why? I don't understand what they're doing, how it works so well on a human, emotional, musical level. And yet it's using major and minor, and it's changing keys and all this stuff. And you just kind of think, why? That's the magic of music, isn't it? It's just, I
love it. Yeah. And I love being confused by it. And especially when it's coming out of my own vocal cords, like there's days when I feel like I'm a complete imposter trying to train. I like the fact that I started on guitar, so I never assumed anything about the vocal side of what I do, but I've used it for songwriting. And so whenever I'm singing and just trying to be objective about it and not trying to evaluate it as like singing, quote unquote, then it's like whatever comes out as like these sort of utterances are just interesting, like these found objects. And it's so true with the vocal aspect of blues singers and blues in general. A lot of people that I'm working with are trying to get into understanding how and why major and minor blues can coexist at the same time. And I just say it's because it's singing. It's the vocality of it. And I don't even know if that's a proper word, but that's what I try to say is like, as you start bending from the major third, from the minor third into the major third, into the fourth, into the fifth, into the flat fifth, and like it's this whole kind of like spectrum. It's like this one long elastic, sort of rubber band of possibilities, and just knowing where you are, where you're intending to be, just creates an emotional effect, and that is allowed, and then some.
I love that you created the word vocality. That's a really interesting. I love it when people create a word, because what it really shows is how much they've thought about that area of study and how much they've tried to express it to someone, so much so that they need to create a word.
Yeah.
That's when you've got a really good person that can express a mental image. One of my biggest hurdles in guitar as a young guy was grappling with the understanding that blues is not modal. It doesn't. But listen, before we get there, can you do me a favor and just tell the listeners who aren't familiar with Tim Fagan, tell them about the Jason Mraz thing. Tell them about what you do. Imagine you're talking to people that have never heard of you before, which would be unusual.
Which would be a lot of people, as it should.
You never know. I think a lot of people know who you are.
And I forget about this sometimes too. The people in my life will be like, "Hey, talk about the thing and that." And I have some really cool things that, in my career early on, made a huge difference. And one was that when I first moved to Los Angeles, my heart had gotten broken. I was like, I'm going to move to LA, even though it's like I had no interest living in Los Angeles, just because it's not the easiest place to live in general. But I went, put my chips on the table, as it were, and that was about 20 years ago. And one of the first breaks that I had was that John Mayer was writing this column in Esquire magazine at that time. And he had these lyrics that he said, these are some orphaned lyrics. And so calling all songwriters out there, write some music to this and I'll pick a winner at some point. And so I entered that and sent off the song. I really thought about trying to do this sort of blues pop thing that might sort of fit the John Mayer style. I didn't tell anyone about it. And lo and behold, about a month after I sent it in, I got a call. I was working at the software job. I was sitting with some Chinese food in my Honda Civic on my lunch break, sort of like
living the dream, buddy.
Trying to figure out the dream. Yeah, it was one of those like game planning, looking at the sky, just being like, how do we do this? Like the engine's off. And this number that had been trying to call me repeatedly was showing up again. I didn't recognize the number. So I figured it was a bill collector. And it turns out it was, I answer the phone and it's like, hey, is this Tim Fagan? I'm like, yeah, who's this? And, this is John Mayer. And he starts singing the melody to the music that I had written, that I had sent off. So he was calling persistently to make sure he got through to me to let me know that I had won out of some 2,000 and some people that had sent this in. And it was an incredible rush. And I was immediately sort of like feeling like, all right, the dream is back on, baby. Let's go. And he sent me his signature Strat at the time, right before they started coming out. And so he sent me that directly, wrote a great article in Esquire. The title of the article is Tim Fagan is a Winner. And it goes on to talk about, the process. And it was a jolt of a huge, exposure opportunity. And I put together a CD release party back when there were CDs. And at that release party, I was introduced to this woman who was representing Colby Calais. And so it was kind of like one thing led to another. I became friends with Colby Calais in the Los Angeles sort of singer-songwriter scene. And right around that time, she blew up on MySpace of all things and was signed to a record deal, asked me to be her guitarist and band leader. But she first and foremost knew me as a fellow songwriter. So when an opportunity came across not long after, we were out on the road opening for Lifehouse and Goo Goo Dolls. It was pretty fun to have our first tour be such a sort of big thing. Jason Mraz reached out to her over email and said, hey, do you want to do a song as a duet? And he sent over this guitar vocal, this sort of like rough draft. And Colby showed it to me. She was like, do you want to work on this? I'm like, yeah, I want to work on this. And I played it cool. But the beauty of it was that I had no idea really what I was in for, what the stakes were. In other words, it would come years later that I would realize as a professional songwriter, quote unquote, like what it takes to be put in the room, so to speak, with an artist and someone with a big name and a big record label behind them. And we were just writing this song and piecing it together across the distance. He was in London, we were on tour, and I would I was inspired by a Steve Martin movie, The Jerk, where there's a scene where they're singing like this beautiful duet where they're doing this counter melody thing. And I thought, in duets, I don't think I can remember the last time when I heard the two singers sort of go their own way and sing counter melodies. And I wove that into the song. And so flash forward, we pieced together the song. The record label loved it. It found its way onto the record and it became the follow-up single to I'm Yours. So this enormous song, I'm Yours, comes out on Jason Mraz's record. And then Lucky is the song that we all wrote together that came out after that. And it won a Grammy. And it's an honor. Yeah.
I love how when you say I want a Grammy, you almost feel like you have to say it as a throwaway kind of, it's not a big deal thing, because you don't want to come across as if you're full of yourself. But it's a huge achievement and it's absolutely deserving. I mean, having spent a few hours in your presence watching you talk about music and talk about guitar and teaching and getting to know you and your partner.
Yeah,
you deserve every second of everything that happens. These things, these breaks. You talk about getting a break. I really feel like when an artist gets that break, it's just it's the end of a long chain of hard work, dedication, and basically passion, isn't it? Really,
Yeah, I agree. And who knows how it all shakes out? It felt very charmed and fortuitous and all the things, but just seeing little signs where even in that moment when John Mayer called me, I was having my Chinese food in my car. The fortune cookie after I got off the phone with John said like opportunity is knocking, answer the door.
No.
It was like, and
man, that's so cool.
And he had called
You
3
should've got a
times.
photograph.
I very much so. Yeah. And I kept it, and it gave me chills, and it's fun to feel like whatever kind of tide is rising or a surge of momentum, it's like, all right, I'm going to ride it. It's bigger than me. And yeah, there's a lot of hard work and all those gigs in the pubs and the unseen moments where you doubt yourself. They come and go, but when it's a good day, it's also fun to just be like, all right, we're riding the wave, you know.
Tim, you know now that you need to shoot a music video outside the front of that Chinese.
Yeah.
You need to go find that place. Whatever.
Yeah.
What is it? A Panda Express?
It's a Panda Express. So I can probably get all their locations and just get the old General Tso's chicken that I had that day.
That's great. That's great. Not a Chinese dish.
Yeah,
I love it. So where are you based, as they say in America, out of? I'm
in Nashville, Tennessee these days. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I've heard about Nashville. I've been in her a few times.
When was the last time you were here?
It was on an American tour with Rabia, I think.
Yeah.
Probably. What was it? Either on my own or with Rabia. I've done two tours of that area. It's where I met Johnny Highland, and
nice.
He signed the back of my Ghost Fret.
Wow.
I love Johnny Highland. There's a man that can make you immediately think you don't know how to play guitar.
My God. Yeah. The players in this town. Yeah. I try to play around with the hybrid picking and the chicken picking and some of that stuff. And, our now mutual friend Guthrie Trapp is a real inspiration. But I tend to treat it just like I'm just passing through. I'm just having fun. Almost like if I give it a sort of light touch, then I can absorb it without feeling the pressure, because there's moments where it's like, I'm not going to be able to play that clean and that punchy. But one thing I'll say is that the sense of humor and sort of quirkiness and some of the wild stuff that goes on and like really clean country guitar picking is super inspiring. You know what I mean? When there's that sort of some of those tongue-in-cheek, really dissonant and funny and fast licks, where when you slow them down, you're like, what is going on here? This cat's reading banjo roll or something,
So Johnny Highland gave me a lesson when I was in Nashville playing. He turned up, tried my guitar, tried my amp. I was just destroyed. Every part of me was melted. And he gave me a lesson in some of those little dissonant licks where you hold a finger down, hit an open string, and you're sort of scaling up but going down. And if you slow it down and add distortion, it's metal.
Right.
And if you play it to speed and clean it up, it's country. And I fell in love with that kind of music. And I said this in a previous podcast, but it's fine. I think it stands the test of time. I fell in love with that from the documentary Down from the Mountain, which was all about the music of the movie Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Oh, I haven't seen the documentary. Yeah, I love that film. I need
the planet to know about this documentary. It's where I first saw Emmylou Harris. It's where I first all of these, Dan Tyminski, Ron Block. Just man, honestly, it's such a great. It's just a live performance, and then them talking about like Union Station are playing, and it's beautiful, and everyone is such an incredible, emotional musician, and some of the vocal harmonies are. I mean, man. It's so American, and yet it's utterly European, because all of this music, it's an American music. I mean, jazz really is an American music style, but this mountain music really has its roots in Celtic origins, and whether it's Irish or Scottish or Old Cornish, and then the Germanic stuff. It's all seeped into the States back in the day, and then gone through the mill of poverty and music was needed to keep people alive, sane and happy and have an outlet. And it became this fucking beautiful thing that then Alison Krauss is singing, I'm the lucky one or whatever. And it's like, oh my God, it's so beautiful.
Yeah. I wrote down that documentary. I'm a sucker for that. And there was the Ken Burns one that he did on country music that came out a few years ago. I remember watching that and just opening up my mind to really the roots of all like the origins of country music and blues. And it's amazing to hear the Celtic influences, and then just where it all ends up and how all roads converge. And when you hear the harmonies and the vocal harmonies, and it just gets you fired up because it makes it feel like it's alive and ancient and like fresh all at the same time, where it's like when you're in the room with people that know how to really continue the tradition and play it and sing it, there's nothing like it. It's just everyone has goosebumps. It's like
and
there it is.
And that music is still transforming nowadays. People like me, you get inspired by people that can play like Jerry Douglas on the dobro, just this incredible sliding stuff. And then you see that take effect in, who did the song Blown Wide Open? Oh God, hold on. I'm going to have...
is that the Canadian band?
Band? Best band ever from Canada.
Which was sent to me by one of my members a couple of years ago. I had never heard of them. Big Wreck. And what's the name of the front man?
Yeah, that guy.
That guy.
One of the most incredible musicians of all time.
It was unbelievable. And it was like discovering like, oh yeah, this person's been here all along. I'm like, what? And it was like from some like Sir guitar, like celebration or whatever. And like
Ian Thornley.
And he's obviously, but it was just like the tone, his playing, his singing, the whole construction of it was so deep. Like it was so like, oh, there it is. Like it's like, and that it pulled from a bit of the like some of the Knopfler stuff from the Dire Straits, like some of his solo stuff and his later stuff with Dire Straits, which kind of explains like his fascination with American music and with Chet Atkins and collaborating with Emmylou Harris and all that. There was just this kind of like, oh, there it is, kind of,
Well, I want you to imagine a 20-year-old Rob Chapman. I'd never been to North America ever, and I got headhunted to join a band who had a relationship with Sony North America, and they needed a guitar player, and it was a drummer and a vocalist. The vocalist was a relation of Wayne Gretzky's, and the drummer was one of my best friends, Ian Brenchley, and Ian gave me a call and said, Rob, we need a guitar player. I know you're the guy to do it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So I packed everything in a bag, grabbed my best friend at the time and brought him with me to try and see if he could play bass. It wasn't a bassist. And I ended up landing in Toronto to join this band. Get in the car with the singer, who's a really fun guy, Mark, his name was. And he puts the radio on. And the first song that I hear is Blown Wide Open by Big Wreck. And I'm like,
wow.
Oh my God. It's mountain music, hybrid picked slide, but it's rock. And it reminded me of when Zakk Wylde was doing that with Pride and Glory. And then the next tune was Kenny Wayne Shepherd, Blue on Black. And that destroyed me. I couldn't believe how good it sounded. With the octave fuzz and the super sensitive playing and the little little tiny touches.
Oh man, when Kenny Wayne Shepherd, when he came out and like with his first record, like that was me in my sort of Stevie Ray Vaughan era, and I'm like probably 16 or 17, and I've had a couple of years of playing guitar, so I'm thinking like, well, I guess I'm Stevie now. I'll be Stevie, everyone. Look out, here I come. Like I'll be and then Kenny Wayne Shepherd comes out, and then Johnny Lang, and I'm like, okay, I guess that's not what I'll be. But it hurt at first, and then when I think that was the second record that came out that had Blue on Black on it, like the lead off single, and there was what was so cool is that it felt like, oh, this was maturing into something. That song is so great, and you're right, the production of it and. That it was an example to me of like, oh, you have to evolve beyond your biggest influences. You have to sort of like be channeling them, and it's okay, especially when you're like a young phenom and everyone's going to say you are Stevie Ray or whatever the template is. But then you have to find a way to like carve like something else out of it. And I thought that was a really cool. Even as a young, like I didn't have any sense of what I was going to be as an artist, but when I saw that second move, it was like, oh, that's how you take the story further.
Yeah, I mean, you're so right, man. And you do see a lot of young guitar players being pigeonholed, and he's the new, and then insert famous guitar player. I think it's useful to a point. And something that's a little bit of a bugbear of mine is when, well, not just pushy parents, but people who take a young guitar player and say they're phenomenal because they're good and they're young. And I think with a wide, open perspective, I've seen billions, probably not. Probably I've seen thousands of unbelievably talented young guitar players. And the problem there inherently is that they get older and they feel like it's not going to happen for them.
Yeah.
And that's really awful because it's massively demoralizing and it's demotivating, and it makes them feel like maybe they weren't special anymore. And that's not the case. You know, I think as a past guitar teacher, when I had a student who was very young and very good, I would say to them, "You're really good. It's not because you're young. You're just very good. And as you grow older, you will still be very good. You know, even when you're 50, like I am, you know, you can be good, 60, 70. It doesn't matter what the age is."
Well, question for you then, do you think that there's any way for them to process that in the moment, or is it more just like you're gonna reflect on this quote? Like, do you know that if you say that, it'll get in there and it'll echo when they need it? Meaning, like, how much can you possibly believe when you got the hot hand? And you know what I mean, when you're 15 and you're seeing a whole room full of grown men literally cry, that you're able to channel something, it can be really tough to even know what that is, like what that potential is. Like, is that potential, like, is everyone saying this equals a big record deal, or does it anymore, or is this maybe a new era where it's been this way probably for a while, where it's like actually like the path now is like social media? Is it TikTok and doing it in a way that's authentic? Because I don't know that the record contracts for a blues guitar slinger, like, is that the brass ring anymore whatsoever for like a young kid? Like, because, you know, we've been around, and even at the event that you and I met at, there was a young guitar player and he's very talented and his dad's doing incredible things to you know, support his dreams. And I want nothing but the best for this player, mostly just to be happy. And I wonder how much that can be said about that in the moment, or whether it's just like, well, you know, just be a good influence. Just and we had a good day, you know.
You're talking. Was his name Nick? What was his name?
Yeah, Nikhil. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. He was very grounded, very humble, and very normal. And his dad absolutely loved him. It was so beautiful, Bob. Hey, Bob.
Yeah.
It was so lovely to see their relationship. But Bob was not pushy, and he was not like, "Look at my son, he's great because he's young." Right. He was, "Look at my son, he's great," and he was great. He had a beautiful voice. He could really play, and he was very secure in his music. And that's my concern, is that I've seen so many, now that I've been doing this for a while, very young musicians think that they just can't do it because they reached, you know, 25. Now that's awful, you know, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you can shred. I mean, there are literally thousands of shredders. It matters if you can write emotional, incredible music like you. I mean, when I listen to your playing, I notice that obviously you have technique. You can do stuff that the average person would be like, "Wow, how's he doing that?" But what comes across is the emotional. It's a conduit of emotion. You know, you're sensitive with your touch. You're considering your note choice, and it's also coming across as a vocal kind of delivery.
Oh, thank you. That means the world. And I want to make more music of my own and sort of move into a season of, and you're helping nudge me in the right direction to remember to just sort of like not only keep the artistry alive, but like flourishing. And so I'm going to be leaning into that as I go forward, because I've enjoyed teaching so much over the last couple of years, and it's been a new foray into that. But I also realized that it's got to somehow feed back into the expression of, I got to continue to evolve as a player and as a writer. And I'm curious about how you sustain those balances in terms of, you know, like if you were to give a sort of survival kit to someone who's saying like, all right, I want to be a content creator, I want to continue to make my music, what's your trick to the balancing act that you feel is a must-have kind of ratio or sort of recipe?
That's a great question, Tim Fagan. That's a really good question,
I
because
have
I
my
think
coffee. The coffee's kicking in now, so now we're lucid. Let's do it.
I really think that my answer is something that has had to change over the years to fit whatever media is most prevalent. And I think we're going into, well, we're definitely going into an incredibly interesting new phase of humanity with AI. I mean, it's really going to change the landscape in ways that I don't think people really realize. Even in just an industry as small as musical instrument product manufacturing, I know a few things that I can't talk about that are huge and will radically change the product landscape within the next couple of years. So when I first started, someone once described me as a human tornado of energy. And I was like, make videos, be in a band, do another band, do a session thing, just teach everything. And I threw myself in as many directions as possible to see what would stick. The idea of me sticking is horrendous, but you get the analogy.
Yeah.
And to my detriment, discovered that I could do all of them. I could teach quite well, I could play pretty well, I could make videos all right, and I also enjoyed all of them. That was another problem. Now these are issues because
we're gonna the detriment that's sticking with me. I'm sure a lot of people listening to are like, I see what he's saying. Like, so you discover that, continue, because I know that feeling. Yeah,
because what would have been really good is if I'd been awful at making videos, I couldn't teach, but I could play really good, and the band was the thing. Then I would have focused all of my energy on being in a band, or all of my energy just on videos. But I did all of them, and I really severely burnt out after I went to a place in London called the Guitar Institute, where I studied to be, I didn't study to be a guitar player. I ate loads of takeaway food, discovered girls, got drunk, did all the bad things, kept all the notes, and then
you got educated. You got properly educated.
Education in central London, in Acton.
Acton! I spent some time there. I can see that on the tube stop or on the train stop. That's
great kebabs.
I would imagine, there were some good rehearsal spaces out there that I...
See, and that's the thing. So, for example, back in the day, I would spend time in rehearsal spaces to network. I would sit there and have a coffee. Obviously, mobile phones didn't exist. So I would sit there, have a coffee, and be like, hey, man, how you doing? You going to go rehearsal? Yeah. I'm Rob. I'm in this band. Nice to meet you, dude. Next person comes in. Hey, dude, how you doing, man? What band are you in? And I would meet people, network, just make friends. Friendship is so important.
Oh my God, yeah.
And then I would go on my computer and go on MySpace. And meet people via MySpace, and then gradually evolved into YouTube, and then Facebook sprung up, and then eventually Instagram, and I would do all the Instagram and the Facebook, and then just recently I went through a very interesting phase where I didn't want to shoot videos anymore, Tim. I was approached by a company who asked if they could license or have a license on the IP of my content to feed it to an AI, because I have one of the largest online guitar.
So
resources.
You were asked if you wanted to make a Rob bot, and you were considering it.
No. What they wanted, basically, AI companies cannot just take videos and photography from a website and then just feed it into an AI to teach it. They could, but they get
allegedly
sued, especially in America.
So these people are doing it above board, unlike some others.
So what they need is a license to be able to use content to feed it into an AI to educate it on anything to do with guitar. And it turns out I have one of the, if not the biggest online resource of video about the guitar. And I was like, this is a scam and I don't believe you. And they said, no, take a look at this. You've got 500 hours of published content on your channel alone. And then, of course, for Andertons, Thomann, Guitar Center, lots of, I've probably created about 700 or 800 hours worth of content, more than 2,500 videos. And although that's an achievement and it's brought me incredible things in my life, I couldn't help but kind of get a calculator out and do the math.
Oh, yeah.
And start working out how many hours of editing and how many hours of filming, and then
how many years of life. Like when you squash the stats together,
Yeah.
like literal like years of your existence.
And also,
yeah.
I mean, I've done that now. I've done the product demonstrations, so much so that I don't want to see my own face on TV at night when I look up something new. I'm like, oh God, please don't. When I hear the greetings, I feel nauseous.
I need to I need to insert a quick story when it comes to you and demos, because this is hopefully to embarrass you in a good way, make you blush. When I met you, we were at this event, Guitar Dreams in Scotland, and one of the days was like a mini trade show. And there were all of these like small like guitar makers and amp makers, and they were all there very excited to have like a mini NAMM there at this one day event. And I don't remember the name of the guitar company, I'm sure you do, but they didn't recognize you. They didn't know who you were, and you graciously offered to do a demo for them because they had nobody to help showcase their instruments.
Yeah.
And so there you were, just plugging in without any, like affiliation or any like setup. And just out of the kindness of your heart, you just ripped some incredible riffs to make the guitars. And I remember you sort of handing your guitar back to the guy who was making them, and he was like speechless. He was like, he suddenly, I think, realized just by your talent, like, oh, we just stepped into the sort of top shelf version of a demo. Like, that's what our guitars can do. It's like he was as much looking at it like, wow, like, but it was such a testament to your character that it was just like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And like with everything you've said, obviously in the backdrop, there was no ego whatsoever, and it was just like it was time to plug in and play. It was great.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I just wanted to help him out because there was no one. He didn't have a. He's just a luthier, so he hadn't thought to bring a demonstrator, or the guy that was going to do it was late or something. And I thought, fuck it, I'll do it.
Well, that guy lost his job. Yeah.
It's just another guy making guitars, and that's really hard.
I know, especially
so
and making it by hand. It was very clear this was like a labor of love that hopefully turns into a booming business. But like as we go forward into the great whatever, as far as what's around the corner or already here, like making things by hand, whether it's the instruments or the sounds that come out of them, or the even making the decisions to leverage AI in a way that can bring people together, and just having that be the payoff is going to be something we all have to take care of as creators and as musicians. Like we just have to decide it ranks up at the top or near the top of the list, because the big question of like, and I in a way I've seen it happen in the preceding years to where we are now in music production, where you can have drum samples sound like anything you want, any samples sound like anything you want from any era of music. And then that sort of question that gets louder and louder is like, okay, you can do anything. What do you want to do? It's like, oh, let me dig through some more kick samples and figure out. It's like, and you can geek out about, wow, this sounds exactly like 1962 or whatever it is. Okay, well, now what do you want to do? And you can't outrun that.
Yeah.
So then if the answer is what you want to do is like, well, I want to do something that makes people happy, makes me happy, and lights up that feeling, in my soul, then it's like, okay, great. Well, then technology is here to help, I would hope,
Yeah. Well, there's a chain of consequence there that brings me back to the point that I was going to get around to making.
No, I was tangenting you. Big
No, it was a good tangent, and I wish I could remember that guy's guitar brand. It's going to drive me nuts that I can't. It was him and his two daughters, and they had 3 guitars, and they were all really good. If I can remember it, or if
we'll
you
drop
can,
it in. Yeah,
we'll put it in. So, having in my face being told that I'd made one of the biggest online, guitar demonstration resources, it didn't feel good. I mean, it felt like I'd achieved something, but I'd done it, so and to be honest, I set up as a guitar player and a singer to be in a band. I didn't want to be not that I didn't want to be a demo guy, because I love shooting the videos with Lee and the guys and doing all that stuff. It's brilliant fun, but it's not my life's ambition. Music definitely is my life's ambition. And I went off for a coffee to the local forest with my 8-year-old boy, Theo. And there's something really amazing about little kids that they have zero filter. They don't give a shit. And they'll just say the truth. And Theo, I said, listen, man, I don't know what to do. I don't want to shoot videos anymore. I kind of have to, to an extent. And I need to find a way around the fact that I need to make content. But I want to do it in a way that I love again. Because if I love it, other people will love it. And then that's the chain, yeah?
Yeah.
And he said, well, why don't you just do stuff that's really easy? I thought, yeah. And he said, why don't you just do videos that don't need editing?
Yeah. That's why I laughed, is because I immediately recognized the brilliance of that. Do things that are easy and easy to you, meaning you're so good at it at this point. Keep going. I'm sorry. I'm just lighting up.
You're right. It was such a simple but such a brilliant statement. Do things that are, and he said, why don't you just do stuff that doesn't need editing? Because I taught Theo how to edit. He wants to be a YouTuber. He's already a musician. He can create multiple track harmonies with beats. It's weird. I've never shown him anything other than how to edit on Final Cut Pro and a bit on Logic. Yeah. And he said, why don't you go live as well? And I went, I don't really think anyone wants to see me live. I don't know. I think unless there's a really exciting product, I don't think people are particularly interested. And he went, does that matter? And I thought, no.
Wow.
It doesn't.
Heck, mate. Yeah.
Yeah.
You went to the woods and met with the sage, and you were enlightened,
Funny you should say that. I did then have a rather interesting experience with some mushrooms for the first time in my life. And through that experience, of which we will not speak quite yet, I removed all of the social media from my phone. Everything gone. It was just a phone with a camera. And I took 2 weeks where I didn't go on to the media, and I just sat and thought about what Theo had said, because it really hit home. And then I decided to do the things that I love the most. And I thought, I love hanging out and chatting to people who are interesting, creative, different. I want to put people like that into more of a limelight and help them get more of an audience. And I started writing down a list of people that I would want to talk to. And having just met you, you were right top of that list, because I think you're interesting and friendly and kind and creative and all the right kinds of things that should be in this tribe. And I thought, fuck it, I'll make a podcast, because that's what it is. It's chats with friends, and they don't even need to be musicians, because although I am a musician, I'm obsessed with food. I'm obsessed with Chinese martial arts. I love entrepreneurship, business and motivation and all these kinds of things. And I think it would be really interesting to just chat to people. And then, of course, it's just captured, and I just put it on a timeline, top and tail it, and then send it to YouTube, and then, whatever other Spotify places my management send it to. So it's easy. It doesn't need editing, and it's something that I love. And that is what I would tell people to do. Not necessarily the podcast, but just create something that they enjoy making, that is easy for them, that can be captured and reused. Because a live show, for example, if you don't film it, that happened and it's gone.
Right. Yeah, no, this is exactly where I'm at right now. So just know that the ripple effects of the breakthrough from your sage advice from your son have found me too, because as I've navigated this space, I've just thought more and more, it's like that easy, that word. It's like, well, what's easy for you or I has taken so many years to be able to, not only just that sometimes we get caught up in the gear or the technical aspect of like, well, what's it going to take? Well, I need this kind of camera or this kind of connection, or I need this kind of, like, preparing to prepare could take forever. But if it's more just like you really ask yourself, like, could I hit record and just show up? And could I allow myself to upload that essentially as is? Even though there's a part of me that was not very long ago would have been freaking out at the thought of like a low edit or no edit, piece of content.
Tim, that's exactly why this is called Rob Chapman's Lo-Fi Podcast.
Love it.
I am looking into the camera of my laptop just here, and this is a Google Meets. Google Meets films it and then chops it back and forth for whoever is speaking. And I just pop it on a timeline, top tail it, and put it inside a TV set. And it's lo-fi. And it's that way for a reason. It means that I can be anywhere on the planet and do this. It means that I don't need to think about, other than a little bit of lighting, any kind of setup. It's about the reality and the depth of the content, the conversations, and not about looking fantastic.
Well, I mean, you got two palms there. I don't know if people are seeing the video, but if you have a beauty of seeing the video, you're not between two ferns, but some kind of palm action there. So you definitely nailed that, whether it was just a happy accident or a proper planning.
Man, I'm here to tell you that these are plastic.
Yes.
And that what they really do is they cover up marks on the wall where I had a guitar and it slipped and it dented the black paint and left little white holes in the wall that I need to just paint over.
Did they leave dents in your heart when they fell, or did they not get injured when they sort of...
to an extent, yeah, a little bit, but it is what it is. Actually, I quite like it when guitars get a bit dinged up. Look at this.
I do too. Yeah,
a battle scar.
Yeah, when they're real, when you really put it there yourself. A buddy of mine, right before, when I was living in the UK, as I was about to leave and move to Nashville, he's this young guy, great musician. His name's David Gaylor, and he was strumming like crazy on my Gibson Hummingbird without a pick, and he was going crazy and strumming, and like his fingers started bleeding a bit. If you've ever been like actually strumming where like the tip of your finger. And so some of his blood splashed into the guitar, which now whenever I change the strings, I look in there and I can see the blood stains, and it looks so gory. But it's like, it's just my buddy David just letting it rip as a farewell song.
Tim, tell me about the live scene in Nashville, because I grew up in England. For me, it was you phone up a local pub. Hey, can I come and play? Yeah, I'll give you 100 quid. And you can have a pint of beer. And I'm like, thanks, I'm 12.
Lower your voice to say that. Yeah,
thanks, I'm 12. But what's it like in Nashville? Is there a circuit of just the regular bands that always play? They have lock-ins. They have what do you call it? Residencies, or is it easy to get live work?
It is. First of all, I would say a disclaimer: I am not in that scene as much as so many other people. So I might be speculating in some ways, but the gigs that I have played, a lot of them have been the songwriter ones. And so there's that flavor of gig out here called the Writers Round, which if anyone's been to Nashville, you've definitely seen it, or you've seen examples of it, where 3 or 4 songwriters get up on stage and they tell the story of a song. It's sort of like the storyteller version. And generally, if it's a song people have heard of, it's like the slow reveal, like, and then it turned out, and then it got into the hands of like the bus driver for Keith Urban, and then they heard it, and then wow, and the crowd goes wild. And those are really fun to do when it's like, especially other songwriters you've gotten to know, because you can kind of collaborate and harmonize and stuff. And so generally, it'll be someone else that's on stage that sort of like runs lead and sort of like gets the gig. They'll say, hey, we're playing in the listening room. Do you want to drop in and play this round? So there's been a lot of those where it's like, hey, we got this night. You want to play that? And I'll get asked to do those or various events and things like that. When it gets into like the full band stuff down on Broadway, a lot of people that I know are great songwriters and session players. And then they will also be in bands that have regular gigs down on Broadway. And it's, if anyone knows Nashville, especially these days, there are bands on every single floor of every single honky tonk, which is now such booming business. It is like the amusement park for adults in the center of the country now. And it's amazing. And the bands, the impression I get is that they do really well, mainly because, like QR codes and tips. I'm not saying it's like the ideal format, but like, people will request songs for $20 a song. And I think they have some kind of guarantee with the bar, but it really is just sort of like incredible talent, incredible amount of gigs in a small area. And it's a lot of word of mouth where you get with a band and then you get your regular flow of either a residency each week or whatever it might be.
Okay. So there's a lot of covers, not necessarily much original music going around.
There is a ton of original music, and that's a whole other sector where there's like, and there's way more variety of genres than in the past in Nashville. So there's a ton of different venues where if it were to be original music, that would be much more like I think just sort of the traditional, like, getting a foot in the door and sort of like, instead of dropping off a CD, you'd be sending links and all that. And a lot of great venues for original music as well. So there's a good rock scene. There's actually a pretty good metal scene from what I hear. And yeah, a ton of new venues, new within the last 5 or 6 years, that would not have offered that kind of variety in the past. Yeah.
That's amazing. It really sounds like when I was, 18, saving up money to go to the Guitar Institute, I actually really thought about going to the Guitar Institute I think it was in Los Angeles at the time. No, Berkeley. I wanted to go to Berkeley. And that was where you went if you wanted to be, a reputable live player. But I really think now, if I had money and my time again, I'd go to Nashville. And I would just see if I could join bands, just jump in, help out, be a support guy, and learn from the people doing the job. Because I think you learn so much more from doing the work than you do from going to a college to learn Lydian flat 7.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Although they will ask for that on day one. First audition, first cover band you play. It's like, all right, we're going to play Wagon Wheel. Wait a second. Lydian, and then what else did you say? Lydian flat
7.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. No, it is a good idea. And in fact, I'm thinking of Ross Campbell. He's obviously a great guitar player and a great content creator, someone who you'd probably have a great conversation with. And he moved here from Scotland a little over a year ago, and seeing through, I've met him in person, but seeing him through his Instagram, like the way that he's played with so many artists that are on the rise in the country rock scene, there's like night and day. There's no substitute for being here and just like saying yes to gigs. And when you were talking earlier about like, hanging out with a coffee and just sort of saying hi to people as they went into rehearsal rooms, I was thinking of, asking you, and I'll ask you now, like, what was it like training that muscle to have that little spike of adrenaline and fear of here goes nothing, kind of like, feeling nervous to say hi and put yourself out there? Because there's a way to create that in the virtual space for sure when you're sending DMs and things like that. But what would you say to that, to anyone that's sort of like maybe in their head about where do I need to be or how do I need to be? Because I feel like that jumping in the water feeling where you can just get okay with being like, this might flop, I might hear nothing back, or it might turn into something enormous and you can't know.
Yeah. So this is something that I definitely acquired from martial arts, was the understanding that you can practice an emotion. And that, how do I talk about this without sounding really weird? So basically, if you imagine the horror of being in a fight, I mean, nobody wants to be in a real fight. It's a horrible situation. Even I've only been in that sort of twice in my life. But if you think about that, you're going to have so little real world experience. All the drills on the planet won't prepare you for the fear, the adrenaline, the panic, all these things. And so what it's important to do is to place yourself there. So you create in your head the scenario of, whatever it is, and you really, really focus your intention to create this place in your mind, and then you overcome it by just standing there and being strong and being confident. And I would move that onto the stage. So before a gig, I would picture the stage, or I would go and stand on it if I could, and I would own that stage. And then I would look at the audience or where they would be, and I would remember that they are there to see me and they want to feel good. They're not thinking, I bet he's going to fuck up and I can't wait to watch him make a mistake. No one thinks that in an audience.
No one's ever thought that. And if they did, they would be somewhere else anyway.
Yeah. So I carry that mentality with me through, it's subconscious now, but through all my social interactions. When I meet somebody, I immediately know that when you meet somebody, generally, you want to have a friendly exchange and something polite, courteous, and fun. And then, if you've got not a lot of time, you don't want to take up too much time. So, having trained since I was 8,
wow.
By the time I was in my 20s, trying to make friends, I was very confident it was pretty easy. And it really came from if you want to get specific, it was what they call zhangjuan, standing drills, where you would hold a posture or a pose and exercise your intention. Strengthen intention is something that you can strengthen it over time. If you really think and think and think, you can put your, coaches who train gymnastics talk about, if you imagine running, but really, really, really imagine running, it fires all the nerves,
Exactly.
It really helps that area. So that's what I did. And I found that it was much easier to make friends because I'm friendly and I like people. And I want to make friends, and I not for the benefit of myself, but because it feels nice. It feels nice to have friends.
I love when you say it that way, because it sounds as simple and refreshing. And even for me, as much as I've tried to work on similar things in my own path, it can feel a bit like, almost like, are we allowed to say that? Are we allowed to say nice things about ourselves, such as like, I'm friendly, like I'm a good friend, or I like to be, introduced to someone new who I hit it off with. I really like it when I introduce two friends and then they hit it off and maybe even become, like better friends than I was individually with them, because I actually do enjoy that sense of momentum that comes from that. And to just acknowledge that, and then to be able to bring that into a situation like with actual presence, whether it's on stage or in a crowded room where sometimes there can be anxiety of like, am I going to remember the person's name? All these little things that'll sort of like get us off of our game, because we can go up into our head and think like, well, they probably don't want me to say hi. Well, we can negotiate ourselves out of and be like, well, truly, what's the worst that can happen? And it's like, well, not only what's the worst that could happen, and living through that and realizing it's not that bad, but what's the best?
Tim, bear with me a second, because my little 6-year-old daughter's just come to the door to ask me a question.
Oh, this is great.
What's this?
What did you need?
Is it clean enough to make a fort?
Yes, you can make a fort in the living room. Okay. All right, chicken. Have fun. Can you close the door? Okay. Ciao.
Yeah. We got the green light.
Sorry
Fort
about that.
approved. No, that's great.
I told them I said, if you have an emergency, you can come and talk to Dad. It's never a problem. Don't worry.
That's pretty much code red in my book. And right there, hey, when you put out that request with kindness and sincerity, and it comes back as a yes, you're like really excited, and that's an example of like putting yourself out there. And for whatever it's worth, I'm not sure if the people that are watching or listening to this within your audience, I know that from my audience of people that are striving to get better at guitar, I always know there's more going on at the layers below that. And it's like, I want people to allow that side of themselves forward, meaning the part that might be a little nervous or scared, that can I do this? Is this okay? Like granting yourself permission to put yourself out there. And sometimes the thought, maybe the traditional thought as well, if I put myself out there, what that looks like is moving to Los Angeles and laying it all on the line and going to Guitar Institute, or like sending your song to John Mayer and all that stuff, where it seems like it's a young person's game, where it's like, well, that ship has sailed. But it's like, there's moments every day where I feel like if I'm trying to avoid that slightly scary thing, or that slightly here goes nothing feeling, it's like there's no need to be running away from it, because maybe it's something that looks subtle, like sending an email or sitting down to play guitar and sing gibberish, where bumping into those little quote unquote embarrassing moments where it's like, can I let myself do this? It's like, yeah, why not?
Yeah. Well, I think ultimately, if you want to be a musician that has a career playing music to people, you need a tribe. And if you want people to follow your music, not follow you, but follow your music, then you need to create a world within which these people feel safe, and that they can be a part of this world that your music lives within. And I often say your vibe attracts your tribe, but it really does, And I always tell people when they say, what's the best thing I can do? I say, you need to just project the feelings that you feel and make your music. And when it resonates with you and it's good, put it out there, and don't just sit on tunes and call it tune number 2, tune number 3. Just get it out. You know, you need to release music and just embrace the suckage at the beginning. You know, everyone's going to.
I love, the suckage, because it is uniquely your own. Like, in other words, your suckage is someone else's, like, treasure, and you've just got to allow yourself to be the conduit for something where it's like, oh, I had to see how this was made, and therefore you're too close to it. But with that in mind, when it comes to, let's say, modern day, and without having to try to figure out what this is, this landscape that we're in, as far as what is music, what is content. But if our role is to continue even though there's, quote unquote, too many songs, in a way, like there's too much content. But if we're going to continue to create, and what I would try to instill in people that have never finished a song of their own, if they're just getting into this, is sort of answering the question of like, well, why bother? Who cares? Or who's going to listen to it? It's like, how would you suggest releasing more music a little earlier than you're ready, as opposed to sitting on it and falling into what I've witnessed in the past, where it's like, I'm going to perfect the masterpiece, and then when it's ready, and only when it's ready, I'll unveil it, because that can lead to too many expectations that there's no way to fulfill those. Versus like, I'm not sure if it was done, but I put out this single, and now I know how the next song should be, because I actually finished the arc of releasing something, which can show you where to go next.
I think it's just, you need to practice the complete cycle. And something that, again, this kind of goes back to martial arts, or even dance or gymnastics, but there are lots of artists who they do something called marking. For example, if you're studying a martial art and you have to practice a string of techniques that you would call a kata or a form, then you might have to memorize this long physical pattern of, movements, and then you have to do this thing, and then this thing, and then this thing. And a lot of martial artists, when they have a lot of these things, they'll just kind of mark them. So they go, I do this, and I do this, and this, and then I wrist lock, and then an elbow strike, and then I shoulder, and then a headbutt. And so they're just marking it. They're not actually doing it. That's dangerous. Too much.
Because you train your body just to mark and to not deliver.
Yeah, you're not fully doing it. You're not committing the intention to the act. You're just marking it. And it's the same with musicians. If you just kind of, you write an intro, and then you write a bridge, and that you haven't got the whole song come in one go. Okay, fine, but let's construct it. And then, wait a minute, I've just put these barriers in front of the next stages. I need a producer, don't I? Do I need a manager? Wait, do I need a label? Wait, do I need a band? Just fucking put the music out.
Wait, what about the t-shirts? We can't put it out until the t-shirts are done. And then like, wow, we're going to have to get mugs then too. And there can be a lot of that. What is disguised as doing things the quote unquote right way, or making sure that it's professional, can lead to so many stopping points that can sometimes everything stops, and the whole thing can expire and sort of go stale while you're telling yourself you're doing what's right for the project. You're trying to,
Yeah, I think I've got a statistic that will help.
Yeah. So,
because what we will hear a lot of going forward is there's too much music, too many bands, too many acts. There's no room for new artists. There's no one wants to listen to metal or jazz or whatever. But look,
or even full songs, no matter the genre, as far as like the capacity.
So the population of America is 340 million. Okay, that's just America. So if we now look, what's the global population? Right, 8.2 billion people globally.
Oh, we crossed the 8 threshold. Oh boy, yeah.
So now let's just say, let's just do a really simple piece of maths, and I think this will lay to rest a lot of these problems. 0.5% of 8 billion.
And you got to multiply that all by 2, because we got 2 ears, most of us. So
actually, let's do
16 billion ears.
Let's do 0.01%. So we're saying not
So,
not 1 in 100 people.
right. What does it take? And are we including family? Because you got mom, you
Yeah.
got the cousins.
So so the question is, what is 0.01% of 8 billion people?
That's
And
what
the answer
Spotify
is,
pays you for 8 billion streams. It's $4 and a sandwich. No.
it's 800,000 people.
Yeah.
If you had 800,000 fans, you would be set for life 100 times over.
For sure.
You only really need 2,000 or 3,000 real fans. So what I'm saying is, if you just put out good content with good emotions, good energy, and you're real about what you do, there are enough pairs of ears that you'll find your people who are interested in what you do. And I don't even think, it's going to sound a bit weird, I don't even think you need to be like really, really good.
Yeah.
Don't let great be the enemy of good. You can just be good,
Well, yeah.
The music.
Among the things that I'm staking everything on basically, and I feel pretty good about, is like, as things are already, they can be immaculate in terms of the aesthetic beauty or precision of music and visuals and video. Like that's what AI did on day one, basically. The moment that AI sort of, sure, it was in the background, but the moment that it became the conversation piece where the person across the street had heard about what AI was doing, the first thing that it did, quote unquote, was take away the artist's quote unquote job. But when you look at it more closely, a lot of those roles had been in production roles. And I know this from doing music production for film and TV and commercials. And the same is true for like incredibly talented, like visual illustrators doing that for advertising, which isn't to say that the only reason and purpose for that level of craft was just for those purposes. But like in a lot of ways, the race to making something that is like jaw-droppingly perfect or like aesthetically impressive, that parking space is taken now. It was taken by very skilled humans, and now it's getting taken by robots that are emulating or scraping the data for those humans and their body of work. And so what does that mean? And that means to me, not in a sort of consolation prize way or a sort of like, oh, isn't that nice way? It's like, we're going to need to hear mistakes. We're going to need to hear something that proves like, oh, that was a person. And AI, of course, will start to emulate those mistakes and try to like flub in a way that makes us feel like, but like music by humans and for humans is going to have this increasing like value. It's like stock is going to skyrocket as long as we continue to show up and deliver it. And it sort of maybe sounds like a sort of pep talk, but I genuinely think that we're going to realize really quick, like, oh, wait, everything just feels really edgeless and smooth and perfect until this person came around and I heard their voice crack and I saw the video where they weren't sure if the song was finished, but they put it out anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm moved by that. And now I want to do my version of that, even if that is to pay them $10 through Venmo or whatever, just to acknowledge the exchange of that, whatever that electricity is.
Yeah. I mean, like Eddie Kramer once said to me, leave the hair on. I mean, maybe I left a bit too much hair on.
Yeah, you put it in the right place. Yeah. That's a great slogan. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And personally, that's why I've made a decision to just record live. Everything I do is live. The single I released 2 days ago, If You Fail, was live. The single before that, Morning of the Hour, was live. I've got a whole live album, and then I'm recording a lot of live music because it has a thing. And it for me, it came from Ozzy, rest in peace, listening to War Pigs on the Live at Last, and his guitar goes boom, and you're like, oh my god! Then it's the sound of that SG barely holding on with that stack, and it's not an intentional sound, but it's my favorite sound in the world. I love that sound so much. I re-hear it in my head again and again and again. It's etched in me, and it's just feedback. Yeah, that came from my love of Jimmy too. But that Tony Iommi's feedback at the beginning of Live at Last War Pigs ruined me. I couldn't get over how good it sounded, and it's just dead strings, a stack that's rolled up, making a room loud, and he's just holding that guitar in front of it and opening the volume, and he goes,
well,
I love it.
It's like I'm going to visit that recording now and hear it through your telling of that story. And in other words, like that moment, those things that fall in between the cracks that matter to humans and leave an impression, like we're going to have to continue to start announcing like our favorite spots, because that's how we trust each other to curate. Like, oh yeah, like when I go and listen to that, I'll be thinking of how you listen to it. And those are the things that I think the more that we just create those and celebrate them, it genuinely will be the stuff, like the stuff that is like, that's the stuff. And it'll become maybe what I would hope for if there is a bit of a conversation about like where there's sort of a tradition of guitar idolatry, or sort of like worshiping the heroes, which is valid and it gives us so much. But there's also a little bit of a nudge towards like, okay, but we've got to take it forward in a way that feels like we're still celebrating being a rock star without that always seeming ironic, because sometimes it's like, oh yeah, it's rocking, and oh, that reminds me of. And sometimes what I'll just say to people as I'm improvising riffs when I'm doing a live stream, I'll be like, I know it sounds like insert name of song or insert name of artist, but maybe think that, but don't say it, because the moment we stamp things, we sort of go into our sort of like water cooler of like, oh yeah, that reminds me of such and such and Pink Floyd and blah blah blah. It's like, I know, but also it's just a riff. It's just a thing. You know,
it's difficult though, man, because you know the muggles that don't play guitar. To them, it's a way of being nice, of being friendly, of you know, giving praise, and that's really nice. And I think they should be allowed to do that. But let me ask you, what's your final form? Have you kind of worked that out?
I'm transforming into it as we speak, which is what lies ahead for me. I think is continuing to grow this amazing community that I am knocked out by. I thought I was going to be just
wait. We should shout that out. Sure. What's your community site called?
Well, guitarworkoutoftheday.com is what I got. Like I bought that URL a couple years ago after finishing a yoga class. I'm feeling like, why don't we have this for guitar, where you can just turn your brain off in a way and have a great teacher just guide you through exercises. You can show up and drop in. That was the spark for that. And so it's grown into this community that is, you know, the Guitar Friends community. My handle out in the world is Guitar Friend Tim. So everything is about Guitar Friend and that connection. And we just last night had this like Merry Riffmas celebration, which is like in true form of my sort of like wordplay and stupid puns, but a lot of fun. I dare my members to share each month with some challenge. This challenge was, you know, Christmas in July, but it was Riffmas, Merry Riffmas in July. And you were assigned, the people that elected to do this were each assigned like Secret Santa, which in the States is like you get paired with someone in the office, whatever, and you sort of like get them a gift and they don't know who it's from. For us, it was Secret Santana. And you had this sort of like person that you had to do a bit of research on them and what they like, what they listen to. And then on the last day, you know, we opened our presents, which was in the form of songs that everybody had made for each other. Could have been anything, like a riff or a famous song. A lot of people wrote original songs or wrote original lyrics to famous songs, and it was just a hoot. Somebody called a bunch of members and had them sing vocal parts and had this choir of all these, sort of like what Gal Gadot tried to do back in 2020. But really well. And so it was super like, and I'm feeling all the feels and just realizing that this is an actual community of people that really care about each other. And I get to just sort of witness that. It's been a thrill just to see that be so much more than just guitar lessons, which I love crafting and all of that, and doing a lot live streams. We do workouts every night of the week because that's my whole idea. I just hit go live and I just do a bunch of exercises on a theme, which is all to say that like that has been amazing. I love seeing that flourish. I want it to continue, and I want to tap back into my artistry. And in a way, the sort of big sneak attack on my members, which they're starting to sense, is that I'm going to be steering more and more towards expressing your original ideas, and I'll be trying to lead by example. So if I'm willing to get out there and start releasing more music that is rough around the edges, not quite finished, not quite sure what it is, and push my own boundaries, maybe they'll start to see like, oh, like I could put a song on Spotify too. Like I've never thought of myself as being someone who would play a gig, but maybe I'll just do it because maybe that's kind of what's going to like be a bit of a sort of healing tonic as we go into the great, robot apocalypse or whatever, lies ahead.
Yeah, the robot apocalypse. This is that's an interesting, man. There's a whole podcast on the robot apocalypse, I tell you, because I'm I'm currently working on. Sorry, just to say, I'm glad that you're moving into releasing more music and making it kind of, the word isn't real, but rough and hairy and kind of a little bit live and not too polished and sculpted and everything. And I myself am in a similar boat. I'm realizing that it really looks like I have a headdress on right now, which is
that's a perfect spot. Yeah,
cultural appropriation of some sort. I'm not sure what this.
No, it's good. You got incredible earrings. And the noggin is just the right proportion there. Very good.
I'm also working on the biggest musical, I don't even know what to call it without letting the cat out of the bag, but thing of my life. And it probably will be the last musical thing I ever release, I would have thought. And I think now is the time for people who are sat on music to release, publish, get it the fuck out there. Yeah. Just do it and release the trapped emotions and all the stuff that goes along with it. And don't worry about, whether or not you think it's even going to be great, received well. Just do it, man. Just get it out there. Otherwise, no one's going to hear it. The very first thing that you listen to on this podcast and every podcast is the first song I ever recorded, called Flying Magic Monkey Machine.
Heck yeah. That's
and
beautiful.
It's me with a nylon strung acoustic guitar, and I'm singing, and I have an American accent, and I'm shit, and I love it.
Love it.
Yeah, you got to embrace.
That's inspiring. Yeah, no, and I probably when I started was singing with a British accent, emulating the Beatles and everyone. I was with my 4-track, recorder trying to recreate early Beatles recordings, and that was just like the. Oh my God, the things that I blissfully didn't know that I didn't know at the early stage of when I was first writing and first recording allowed that kind of raw expression. And for whatever it's worth, like maybe in these kind of conversations, someone might be listening and think like, well, that also sounds well and good and maybe sounds kind of abstract. And I love getting into the esoteric aspects of like expression and how that can actually like, it can keep you sane and then some. But I really see that like, any time is a good time to truly, it's like the dance like no one's watching thing. It's like without any expectation on the outcome or the goal or the checkpoint or you can brag to your family members. What would it feel like if you just recorded a version of Happy Birthday for someone in your life when it's their birthday and just text it to them? Like we have the ability to just point your phone at yourself, immediately send it, and then just don't take it back. Just let it be. Let it be out of your hands, and it's so powerful. And I see that effect on people where they're like, oh my God, I just did this, and here it is, and wow, and people receive it with such enthusiasm that it like hopefully lights that feedback loop of like, do it again,
Listen, man, thank you for being such a positive, happy, friendly friend. Yeah, I mean, I know you've built this brand of Guitar Friend Tim, but you really are a friendly, positive person. And you really remind me of my friend Andy, the guitar geek, in terms of just, you have this kind of vibe that comes off of you. You glow with this radiant, beautiful male energy. And I really enjoy spending time with you. And I'd love to do another podcast maybe in a few months' time and just kind of catch up and see where some of this rough around the edges music has gone. And I wanted to ask you one question before we wrap this one up.
Yeah.
Which is, I've been playing guitar for a long time now, and I don't think about playing guitar anymore. I just play it. What would you have me practice or focus on? You've seen me play, haven't you? Because you were at the guitar.
Why, yeah. And I made you sit down and show me some legato licks, and it was great. Like legato for blues, and it was like something that I'm still sort of like chewing on. And it was great because what I'll say to answer your question and like slight tangential is that there was like years ago, I read an interview with Chet Atkins, a huge influence for me. And he was describing how one of his favorite things to do is just meet up with one of his other guitar buddies and go to an IHOP, which is like the International House of Pancakes, which is just a spot.
I am familiar with the IHOP.
Yeah, you've toured America, so it's a great. They got all the syrups, and he would just hang out with a friend, and he would always make sure before that he said goodbye to them, he would ask them for a specific riff, like, hey, just show me a riff. And because when someone that has great skill shows you like one thing in their bag of tricks, it's not. At the time when I read this, I thought, well, what's that going to get you? That's just one little riff, but it's like, it's a little crystal of something that they use all the time. And it has so much in it that, like, when you showed me that exercise, it sent my brain off on another sort of like journey to sort of try to learn it. And it gave me that sort of like nice scramble. So I now appreciate, and I try to look for that, like from people that I sit with, is just be like, all right, show me your favorite chord or some little lick. And I would say what's coming to mind right now, I guess, is that like I love shell chords and sort of like the spaced triads and just the sound that can come from just skipping strings in a way that immediately has this more kind of like it's almost like if you're going upstairs and you skip over 2 stairs, there's a certain kind of you almost get a little bit unsteady and you land a little further than you expected to. And I love how that bounces into the next thing. And so sometimes just something that's really relaxing to just go through like a diatonic scale, like a major scale, and just spell out like the spaced triads, because it has more melody built into it. And for me, and particularly for you as well, like with a creative brain, I just imagine that it heads towards a song riff very easily. It just sort of flows right into that. To what extent you need that, I don't know at all. I'm sure you got that mapped out. It's more just like, hover in that sandbox and maybe.
Well, I noticed that suddenly my guitar is in my hands, and I'm looking at string skipping in some of the major modes and stuff. It's interesting because a lot of my riffs start with a string skip. It just seems to be something that I think because I'm hybrid picking, I like this pick and pluck, and then I miss a string in the middle if I'm doing this. So I really like that. What I'd like to talk to you about next time, I thought I'd prime this so that it gives you months and months to think about it. Something that I believe is that there are really a finite number of chords, and of that.
Let's hope so. Gosh, every time I open a chord book, I'm just like, God, there's more today.
Yeah, but there is a number of chords, and then of the chords, there is a much smaller number that on a daily basis you would use.
Yeah,
maybe we use 50 to 100 chords tops on average, when we're playing kind of anything really. What I've set out to do is have a lick or two for each of these chords. So if I have an A chord, you won't be able to hear this on the podcast, sorry, then my A lick that's my A lick.
Right.
I have a lick per chord so that I've defined my musicality per chord. And then I have a thing. Is that a waste of my time? That's the question I have for you. Don't answer it now. I don't want to. Don't give me the answer.
Well, you got me all fuming over here, and I'm chomping at the bit. I will be this way for months. Thanks, Rob. I'm just gonna be like, I'll show him. Yeah, no, it's gonna be a great one. Yeah.
And then my last thing is, it looks like I'm going to be in America, hopefully, quite a bit next year. If I come to Nashville, where do I go for barbecue?
My house, first of all, and then we'll do a vlog and we'll do a buddy trip and a lot of good barbecue. So make sure you check in with me. There's Martin's Barbecue down near Broadway, which is solid. It's a good experience. Edley's, there's a few of those. It's not a big chain. There's a few of them, and I've had a good experience there. Really good smoked meat there. And maybe we'll do a shootout. You come and we'll get all the sides. You got to get your slaw. You got to get everything that goes with it. Cornbread. Yeah, and it'll stick to your ribs, and you will be right as rain, my friend.
Man, this has left me hungry for guitar, hungry for real American food, and nothing but a good thing.
Yeah, man. You're looking good and sounding great. Those plants behind you, they're just right. And I'm excited for this. Yeah, this new lo-fi voyage. It's an inspiration, Rob. Thanks for the conversation.
Thanks, Matt. Well, look, thank you so much for this. Have an amazing rest of your entire day because it's the morning. And we'll stay in touch. See you soon.